Hey YouTube friends, and Yuachaka, who has kindly responded to my video, Jesus, God, or Son of God, and I'm going to respond to him, or to his video, did Thomas call Jesus his God? Quoting from referring to verse 20, verse 28 of the Gospel of John, and Thomas's exclamation. Okay, if we put it into context of what actually is happening, because it's important to actually see things always in context. Okay, Jesus has risen from the dead. His disciples are have seen him, except for Thomas. Thomas returns and says, well, unless I put my fingers in the holes of his hands where the nail prints were, and unless I put my hand in his side, where of course Jesus was speared after he died, and blood and water issued out, he says, I will not believe. And then a later occasion, he appears. Jesus appears to the disciples, and Thomas is with them, and he says, Thomas, put your hands here, verse 27, and put your hand here in the side, and says, be not unbelieving, but believe. And Thomas, and verse 28 says, Thomas said to Jesus, my Lord and my God. Verse 29, Jesus responds, because you have seen, you believe. I tell you, blessed are those who have not seen and yet believe. Okay, so Jesus obviously wants us to be even more blessed than Thomas was, because we have not seen yet we believe. And we're saying we are blessed because of this. Okay, so what did Thomas believe? This is the key point. Okay, verse 28 then. Let's look at it again in the Greek and in the English. You quoted from the NASB, etc. Okay, Thomas said to Jesus, my Lord and my God. Of course, Jehovah's Witnesses and stuff very much in agreement with what you are saying. They say that, as you've interpreted that text, Thomas said to Jesus, my Lord, and he said to God the Father, my God. It is important to actually look at the actual text here. Once again, you see, it says in there, Thomas said to Jesus, my Lord. So who exactly was he talking to when he said, my God? Because the whole statement clearly directs it at Jesus. You've said that you believe he was talking to God the Father. He called Jesus his Lord, and he called the Father his God. Okay. The text clearly says he said this to Jesus. So, was he doing in your opinion, was he actually like the prophets did of old, like Ezekiel did, prophesied the king of Tyre, and then began making statements about the power that's clearly the power behind the king of Tyre, okay, who is Satan. He starts saying, you in Eden, you were clothed with great splendor, with the jewels of the priesthood jewels, until iniquity was found, and iniquity was found in you, etc. So, are you saying that Thomas was speaking to Jesus, firstly speaking to Jesus himself, and then speaking by a spiritual discernment, it's a gift of the Holy Spirit, which Paul exercised with the woman in Philippi, which we can clearly see, that when he cast the demon out of this slave girl, you're saying that he was saying that, was talking to Jesus, and then began talking to the power behind or in Jesus. Or are you saying he actually said to someone else? He actually was calling God his Father, because going by the Greek text, which you've emphasised on, what the text says, how can you actually say he wasn't talking to Jesus at all? This is what I can't gather by the reasoning, because firstly it clearly says he's talking to Jesus. He says this to Jesus, okay, And then you say there's a difference in who he actually was speaking to, as he made this statement. Because by that same reasoning, I can quite clearly say he wasn't talking to Jesus at all. He was doing just like Ezekiel was to the king of Tyre. He was speaking to the power behind Jesus, or behind Jesus, in Jesus. He actually called God the Father my Lord, and God the Father his God. It's by the same reasoning, going by the Greek text, if that's how you interpret it. Okay, but the Greek text clearly says, though, he was talking to Jesus. There was no raising up his eyes and talking to God the Father in a prayer. There was no nothing to say that he was actually speaking to God the Father, because you're actually saying that even though he said this, he actually meant two different people at the same time. Even though the scriptures clearly say he was talking to Jesus. And then, of course, Jesus responds. He says, "You have believed because you've seen. Blessed are those who have not seen yet believed." So, if you can just clarify your rationale, if there's any way you can actually justify your statement by saying he was talking to two people in the one sentence. I mean, because even Ezekiel puts a full stop. Even Ezekiel ends the sentence when he's talking to the literal king of Tyre, and then starts afresh into identifying Lucifer behind the power of the king of Tyre. Okay, so it's a clear thing. He's not continuing the sentence. He's actually starting a new sentence. So it's a clear indication that he's speaking to someone different from the physical person of Jesus Christ. Same where Ezekiel was talking differently to a different person from the king of Tyre. So is that your rationale behind your interpretation of the literal Greek, which you quoted, saying, "Thomas said to Jesus, 'My Lord and my God'"? If you can just clarify that point, thank you.